Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. New York. A heavy summer heat enveloped the crowded streets of Manhattan. The glittering window displays reflected the latest models of luxury handbags and shoes. In one of the neighborhood's most sought-after boutiques, Hartman & Company, Vanessa Hartman, a charismatic and feared director, oversaw every detail with almost military precision. Vanessa was known for her icy elegance, a crisp white suit, sleek hair pulled back, and a piercing gaze that assessed everyone as they walked through the door. Her employees feared her as much as they respected her. But beneath this perfection lurked a certain arrogance and subtle, sometimes ruthless, prejudices. That day, the doorbell rang. A man entered, Elijah Turner. 40 years old, elegantly built, perfectly tailored suit, Italian shoes, and a bearing that commanded respect without a word. Yet, in Vanessa's eyes, he was just another customer, and his dark complexion aroused in her an immediate and unconscious judgment. Elijah approached the display cases with a polite smile. Vanessa followed him with her gaze, a frown betraying her irritation. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked, her voice sharp, almost condescending. Elijah answered calmly, asking to see some rare pieces from the new collection. Without hesitation, Vanessa judged him, his movements, his way of speaking, his apparent calm. She exchanged a quick glance with one of her employees and whispered, "Make sure he doesn't try to take advantage of us." A few minutes later, Vanessa ordered her employees to politely escort her out. Elijah, self-possessed, showed neither anger nor humiliation. He bowed politely and left the store, leaving behind a heavy silence and a crowd of puzzled murmurs. Vanessa, proud of her judgment, had no idea that this man had just left the store, with power and influence capable of changing her life forever. The next morning, Vanessa Hartman sat at her desk, pretending to review sales reports. Her mind, however, remained fixated on the man she had humiliated the day before. The panic stemmed not just from the fear of having offended a customer, but from a vague premonition that made her uneasy. As she absent-mindedly scrolled through her emails, her phone vibrated. The screen displayed an unknown number. She hesitated, then picked up. "Good morning, Miss Hartman," said a calm, collected voice. "This is Marcus Caldwell, Executive Director of the Turner Group. We need to discuss Mr. Elijah Turner." The name made Vanessa shiver. Her stomach knotted. "Mr. Turner," she stammered, trying to sound professional. "Yes, of course. What is it about?" Marcus continued implacably, "Mr. Turner has been informed of your interaction in your boutique yesterday. He wishes to meet with you, but before that, I must point out that Elijah Turner is not just a client. He is one of the largest investors in the luxury sector, owner of several chains of boutiques and prestigious brands. Part of your operations depend on his financing." Vanessa felt the ground shift beneath her. Her carefully controlled world was swaying. She had unknowingly humiliated the most influential man in the business. Shame burned inside her. I didn't know," she stammered. "It was a mistake." "Miss Hartman," Marcus said firmly, "Mr. Turner will agree to meet with you, but on his terms." Vanessa took a deep breath. She knew her career, her reputation, and the survival of her boutique depended on this meeting. She had to right her wrong, but fear and humility were beginning to set in. As she hung up, she realized something. Yesterday, she had thought she was in control. Today, all the power belonged to Elijah Turner. And her life, as she knew it, was about to change forever. Vanessa Hartman spent the morning pacing in her office, her hands clenched on her keyboard. Every attempt to send an apology email to Elijah Turner resulted in a nervous deletion and redraft. How could she undo such a monumental mistake? How could she regain the respect of the man she had publicly humiliated? Finally, she picked up her phone and called Marcus Caldwell's office. Her voice betrayed a mixture of nervousness and determination. "Hello, this is Vanessa Hartman. I'd like to apologize to Mr. Turner and arrange a meeting." Marcus's calm voice answered. Very well, Miss Hartman. Mr. Turner is willing to see you, but on one condition. You must attend his annual charity event this weekend. It brings together leaders from the business world and expects you to be present, not as a boutique executive, but as a participant ready to listen and learn. Vanessa felt a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. She had rarely been put in a position where she simply had to listen. But she immediately understood that this was her only chance to right her wrong. I accept, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. That evening, dressed in a simple yet elegant gown, Vanessa entered the sumptuous lobby of a five-star hotel. Crystal chandeliers reflected light on walls decorated with modern artwork. Uniformed waiters circulated among the guests, carrying glasses of champagne and delicate appetizers. In the center of the room stood Elijah Turner, conversing with a small group of leaders, a polite smile on his lips and an aura of calm and power that effortlessly commanded respect. Vanessa watched him silently, every gesture, every word impressing her. His former arrogance was beginning to dissolve into a mixture of fear and admiration. When Elijah noticed her, he greeted her with a simple nod, without animosity, but with a natural authority that made Vanessa shiver. She knew she was now in territory where she had no control, and for the first time, she felt true humility. The meeting had just begun, and Vanessa understood that this weekend could change her life forever. The reception room of the luxurious hotel buzzed with hushed energy. The guests, all leaders in the business and philanthropic worlds, exchanged greetings and strategic discussions. Vanessa Hartman stood back, observing Elijah Turner. Every movement the man made was precise, measured, yet imbued with a natural authority that commanded respect and attention. When their eyes met, Vanessa felt a chill run down her spine. She had humiliated this man, kicked him out of her shop, and yet he remained calm, elegant, and completely in control. She had never faced someone who simultaneously embodied power, dignity, and emotional control. Elijah approached her with a measured smile. Vanessa, I'm glad you came. I know that yesterday you acted without knowing the whole situation. His voice was soft, but each word carried a weight that made Vanessa's arrogance waver. She felt her throat tighten, unable to formulate an immediate apology. Mr. Turner. She began, the words escaping her usual control. Elijah cut her off gently, but firmly. I'll listen to you later. For now, watch and learn. He then turned to a group of guests and began a discussion about the philanthropic initiatives he supported, speaking with a clarity and conviction that captivated everyone present. Vanessa, fascinated, noticed how people listened to him with admiration and respect. She realized, with a hint of shame, that she had never seen or understood the true power of a leader. For minutes that seemed like hours, Vanessa watched Elijah, analyzing every gesture, every word, every interaction. For the first time, she realized how insignificant her hasty judgments and prejudices had been compared to the depth of his integrity and influence. As the evening drew to a close, Elijah turned to her, his gaze piercing but kind. Tomorrow we'll talk alone. But I warn you, this won't be about shop politics or sales. It will be about respect, equality, and leadership. Are you ready to listen? Vanessa nodded silently, feeling like she was entering a new world where her arrogance no longer served any purpose. She was no longer the undisputed leader of her shop, she was now the student, and Elijah Turner, her unwitting but exemplary master. The next morning, Vanessa Hartman woke with a strange feeling. A mixture of apprehension and curiosity filled her. The evening spent in the luxurious hotel lobby still replayed in her mind. Every gesture Elijah Turner made, every word, every interaction with the guests, now seemed imbued with a silent lesson about respect and integrity. Sitting at her desk, she reviewed her own decisions. The images of the day before, when she had humiliated him in his shop, returned with an intensity she had never felt before. How could she have judged a man by his appearance? By his skin color? Each thought hit her like a mirror of her past mistakes. She began to observe her employees, realizing how her authority was sometimes based on fear and arrogance rather than real respect. The polite smiles she received were insincere, her orders were followed out of obligation rather than admiration. For the first time, Vanessa felt vulnerable to herself. She remembered Elijah Turner at the event, how he had captivated the guests' attention without raising his voice, how every word he spoke seemed thoughtful and carried deep meaning. He didn't need to belittle anyone to assert his authority, his respect came naturally, effortlessly, simply through his demeanor and integrity. Vanessa took a deep breath. She had to understand. She had to learn. She no longer wanted to be that woman who judged hastily, who used her power to humiliate others. A new feeling was taking hold, humility. She looked at her phone and saw a message from Marcus Caldwell. Mr. Turner wishes to meet with you this afternoon for a private discussion. Please be prepared. Vanessa felt a combination of nervousness and excitement. She knew this meeting would change something in her. For the first time, she would face Elijah Turner directly, not as an arrogant leader, but as someone ready to learn. It was a bright afternoon, and Elijah Turner's office offered a breathtaking view of Manhattan. The skyscrapers glittered in the sunlight, but Vanessa paid little attention. Her gaze remained fixed on the man sitting across from her, calm, elegant, and completely in control. Vanessa, Elijah began in a soft but firm voice, I'm not here to punish you, nor to humiliate you. I'm here to show you a different way to lead and interact with the world. Are you ready to listen? Vanessa nodded, knowing that her years of certainty and arrogance had never been challenged like this. She was willing to learn, even if it meant admitting her mistakes. Elijah stood up and invited her to accompany him to the room where a charity project for young entrepreneurs was being prepared. Vanessa followed, fascinated by the fluidity with which he interacted with his team. Every gesture was precise, every word carefully chosen, every person listened to and valued. Look, he said, people respond to consideration and attention, not arrogance or judgment. Authority isn't proven through fear or humiliation, it's built through respect and trust. Vanessa watched, listened, and gradually understood the depth of his words. The young entrepreneurs working on the project smiled, asked questions, and felt heard. None of Elijah's actions or words were imposed, everything came naturally, with humanity and insight. And you, he continued, have power, Vanessa. You run your shop, you influence your employees. But that power can be destructive if misused. If you truly want to succeed, you must learn to inspire, not intimidate. Vanessa felt her heart clench. Every word resonated with a truth she had long ignored. For the first time, she understood that her past behavior was not only unfair to Elijah Turner, but to everyone around her. At the end of the day, Elijah looked at her kindly. Tomorrow you will begin to apply what you have observed. I will show you how to transform your power into positive influence. Vanessa left her office with a mixture of fear and excitement. She knew this was only the beginning of a profound transformation. For the first time, she truly wanted to change. The next evening, Vanessa Hartman stood in the hushed lobby of another charity event, this time hosted by Elijah Turner. The atmosphere was both solemn and warm. The hand-picked guests enthusiastically discussed philanthropic projects and educational initiatives. Vanessa, standing back, watched on, attentive to Elijah's every interaction. After several minutes, he invited her to join him in a private room, away from the crowd. The silence was soothing, and the dim lighting created an intimacy conducive to sincere conversation. Vanessa, Elijah said, you've been observing for 2 days. I see potential in you that you haven't yet realized. But it will take more than observation to evolve. Vanessa took a deep breath. Her heart was pounding, but she knew it was now or never. Mr. Turner, she began, her voice trembling but determined. I want to learn. I want to understand how to lead with respect, how to inspire without judgment. I want you to teach me. Elijah looked at her for a moment, analyzing her sincerity. Then a slight smile played on his lips. Vanessa, he said calmly, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. But learning requires commitment and patience. Are you ready to change for real, not just in appearance? Yes, she answered without hesitation, her voice firm this time. I'm ready. He nodded, satisfied. Very well, he said. We'll start with charity projects. You'll observe, you'll participate, and most importantly, you'll learn to listen and value others. Little by little, you'll understand the true meaning of leadership and respect. Vanessa felt a mixture of relief and pride. For the first time in a long time, she felt humbled and motivated. She had just taken the first step toward a personal transformation she never could have imagined. As she left the salon, she knew her relationship with Elijah Turner would never be the same. She was no longer the one who had humiliated a multimillionaire, she had become his student, ready to reinvent herself and learn from the best. The following weeks were intense for Vanessa Hartman. Every morning, she went to the offices and workshops of Elijah Turner's charitable projects. She attended meetings, organized events for young entrepreneurs, and observed her mentor's every move and every word. At first, she felt awkward. Her old instincts of quick judgment and arrogance resurfaced repeatedly. But Elijah patiently and subtly corrected her attitudes. One remark, one gesture, and Vanessa gradually understood how to transform her authority into a positive influence. One day, while they were supervising a mentoring workshop for teenagers, Elijah said to him, "Vanessa, look at these young people. They need inspiration and encouragement, not judgment. Your role is to show them that they can succeed, even in the face of obstacles." Vanessa watched the teenagers, attentive and enthusiastic, asking questions and sharing their ideas. She felt a new emotion invade her, the satisfaction of helping, supporting, and motivating rather than dominating. "I understand now," she whispered. "It's not the power you have, but what you do with it that matters." Elijah smiled, satisfied. Weeks turned into months. Vanessa saw her shop change as well. Her employees, surprised by her new approach, responded with enthusiasm and commitment. Fear had been replaced by respect, loyalty, and motivation. One evening, after a particularly successful day of charity work, Vanessa stood outside Elijah's office. She was astonished to realize that her perception of herself had changed profoundly. She was no longer the arrogant woman who judged and humiliated. She had become someone capable of enlightened leadership, respect, and positive influence. Elijah, seeing her lost in thought, placed his hand on her shoulder. "You see, Vanessa, the real transformation begins within. The rest is just a consequence." Vanessa smiled, knowing that her journey was only just beginning. She had reached a decisive milestone. Humility and respect were now her new guides. A few months later, the changes Vanessa Hartman had made were beginning to show in tangible ways. Her boutique, Hartman & Company, was booming, not only because of the quality of the products, but especially because of the new atmosphere it had created. The employees, once fearful and distant, now seemed engaged, motivated and proud to work for it. Vanessa had learned to listen attentively, to value each person's ideas and efforts. She realized that respect and empathy inspired more than fear or arrogance. Customers also perceived the difference. They were welcomed with warmth, care, and authenticity. One afternoon during a team meeting, she watched her employees present their suggestions for improving the customer experience. Instead of judging them or imposing her ideas, she asked questions, offered advice, and let everyone express their skills. The change was striking. Creativity and motivation had multiplied. "You see, Vanessa," said Elijah Turner, who had accompanied her to observe the progress, "that's exactly it. True authority is measured by the impact you have on others. You've successfully transformed your store and your employees." Vanessa felt a new emotion pass through her, pride, but a pure pride, born of responsibility and not ego. She realized that by changing herself, she had changed her entire environment. Later, she attended a professional event where several industry leaders came to compliment her transformation. Some even mentioned that she was becoming a role model for young women in the business world. Vanessa realized then that her relationship with Elijah had been a true catalyst. She was no longer the arrogant woman who humiliated others. She had become a respected, inspiring leader, capable of guiding with wisdom and humanity. And every success, every smile from her employees, was now a victory even more precious than any sale or contract. A few months after her transformation, Vanessa Hartman was invited to speak at a major conference organized by Elijah Turner, designed to highlight their shared charitable projects. The conference room was filled with luxury industry executives, journalists, and influencers. The lights shone on the attentive faces of the guests, each eagerly awaiting what Vanessa would say. Standing behind the lectern, Vanessa felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. She glanced at Elijah, who was smiling at her kindly from the front row. This man, whom she had humiliated months earlier, had taught her a lesson in life and leadership that no textbook could have offered. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "I wish to share a personal experience with you. A few months ago, I acted with arrogance and prejudice toward a client who turned out to be Elijah Turner, the owner and mentor of these incredible projects you see today." A silence fell over the audience. Vanessa continued. "I judged this man by his appearance, by unfair prejudices. I believed I possessed power, but in reality, I understood nothing about authority, respect, and true influence. Thanks to Elijah, I learned to listen, to value others, and to lead with humility." Applause erupted. Vanessa felt her heart lighten, but the pride she felt was different. It wasn't about ego, but about the real transformation and the journey she'd made. Elijah then stood up and said, with a smile, "Vanessa learned that leadership isn't measured by the control you exert, but by the positive impact you have on others. She's living proof that everyone can evolve and become better." The guests burst into rapturous applause. Vanessa felt a wave of gratitude and respect wash over her. Not only had she reconciled her past with Elijah, but she had also publicly demonstrated that genuine change was possible. That day, Vanessa Hartman realized that true recognition came not from power or wealth, but from integrity and the ability to inspire others. She was no longer the arrogant woman judged by her prejudices. She had become an enlightened leader, admired and respected. A few months after the conference, Vanessa Hartman's life had changed radically. Her boutique, Hartman & Company, was experiencing unprecedented success, not only for the quality of its products, but above all for the transformed atmosphere it had created. The employees, now motivated and confident, worked with passion and creativity. Fear and arrogance had given way to listening, respect and collaboration. Vanessa had integrated Elijah Turner's lessons into her daily life. Every decision, every interaction, every project she led was done with a newfound awareness of the impact she had on others. She had learned to value the potential of each person, to inspire rather than dominate, and to lead with humility and wisdom. One evening, as they were finishing a philanthropic project together, Elijah turned to her and said, "Vanessa, you've come a long way. I'm proud of you. You've gone from fear and arrogance to inspiration and respect." "Thank you, Elijah," she replied, her eyes shining. "You've taught me more than I could ever learn on my own. You've shown me what it truly means to lead and respect others." Their partnership was no longer limited to professional or philanthropic projects. A deep trust and complicity had developed between them, based on mutual learning, respect, and admiration. In the weeks that followed, Vanessa continued to expand her boutique, initiate new collaborations, and support young entrepreneurs. She became a role model in the business world, not for her wealth or status, but for her integrity and ability to inspire others. Looking out over the city from the rooftop of her shop, Vanessa smiled. She was no longer the woman who humiliated a black man out of prejudice. She had become an enlightened leader, capable of transforming her life and the lives of others. She had learned that true power came not from authority or wealth, but from positive influence and the respect one commands. And as the light of Manhattan shimmered around her, Vanessa knew that this new beginning was only the beginning of an even greater path, one of wisdom, humility, and inspiration.